Welcome back to No Ordinary Woman, where we recognise and celebrate amazing women of all ages and all stages of this happy life, and look at how there are no ordinary women. And today I've got with me Natalie. Hi, Natalie.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing a bit about your No Ordinary Woman journey. I had a chat with Natalie offline and just was asking her about how, COVID 2020 is looking. And it has been quite a year, Natalie.
Oh, yes. Yes, it definitely has. COVID for me has sort of been a very large icing on a very messy cake. So.
It has, and I guess it's important to recognise that this has been, we were talking offline before about how everyone's got their own version of 2020 and how that each person's version of it is really valid. It's not, we're discussing there's no harder than or not as hard as, it's just everybody's own personal challenges. And Natalie, we were talking along the theme of your No Ordinary Woman journey is really centered around when things don't go according to plan, when you have everything all mapped out. So can you tell us a bit more about what hasn't gone to plan this year in particular?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so, well, I suppose it requires a little bit of background. My parents were divorced when I was quite little. I was 6, and that very much shaped one of my plans for life. I was never going to get divorced. I was never going to put myself or my hypothetical children through that. This year that has been one of the major things that has happened. Unfortunately, in June, my marriage did break down, and my kids and I had to move in with my parents. And so that's been a huge thing that hasn't been according to plan. The second sort of major thing for me has been my kids. So I have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, and my oldest 2, my boys, in the last year have both been diagnosed with autism. My oldest is level 2. He's quite intelligent. He has a lot of really excellent cognitive abilities, but his social and communication skills are very low, and we have a lot of behavioural issues with him. And my second son is level 3, so he's quite significantly delayed in his development in almost all areas. And that's just not something that you can plan for. I sort of had in my head that my kids, because I knew what to do with parenting, you see. So my kids were going to have an amazing life, and we're going to be, they were going to do really well at school. And we knew some of the pitfalls. My oldest's quite a gentle soul, a lot like his dad. And so we knew, right, so his dad was bullied in school, so we're going to take steps to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
And autism was not in that plan. Not at all. Yeah. So especially this year with divorce and autism and COVID, my life is nothing like what I expected it to be at all. Not even close. Yeah.
Upside down. And the thing is that you were mentioning to me that the biggest thing you have learnt through all of this was to not hold on to things too tightly. Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose there were a couple of things that in a lot of ways, I hadn't even realised how tightly I was holding on to them. I think the danger with making grand sweeping statements about how you're going to make your life turn out is those things becoming a part of how you see yourself, part of your self-identity.
Yeah.
So, as a kid, when I said I'm not getting divorced, and then that became a big part of who I thought that I was. So then when I am now going through the process, all of a sudden my self-identity is really shaken, and I've had to create a whole new self-image, because that just didn't pan out. So yeah, and I mean, especially with my kids, you can't control kids anyway. I've been learning that for 6 years now, just how much you can't control what happens.
That is a rude awakening, isn't it? When you realise, wait, these aren't things that I ordered. They're actually they're not puppets.
Yeah.
Well, damn it all.
Yeah. Well, my oldest, classic example, he didn't sleep through the night until he was 2.5. Oh. So I read all the books, and my sisters had kids before me, so I knew what to do to make him sleep, and then he just didn't. And so letting go and holding things more loosely, I think, is creating space. Yeah. So if I'm holding on to who I think I'm going to be like this, there's no space for change, there's no space for growth. Yeah. There's no space for the unexpected. Whereas when I let go of things and hold them more loosely, there's room. There's, okay, so he's not sleeping through the night, so I can think of something else. Okay, so he's got autism, so I can look at what we can do to work around that. So it's been a very hard lesson to learn, I'll tell you that. But an important one to just relax that grip, I think. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a huge lesson to learn all in 1 year. And I think that's a really important message for women that are watching, is that we can tend to have these, I love the way you said that, grand sweeping statements about what life is going to look like and how everything's going to be mapped out. And I think that's really amazing, because, we need to plan, and we need to have big dreams, and we need to have big goals. But I think the point you're making, where we need to not hold on to them too tightly, because life happens. And other people are involved in our lives as well, and we are part of their story. I always say to people, like, you write your own story, you're the lead character in your own story, but you're also a bit part in other people's stories as well. So some of what we had planned might not necessarily work out because of somebody else's involvement in it as well, or just because life doesn't exactly go like that. But I think what you're saying is really important, because if we do hold on too tightly, it can be quite damaging when we won't let go of something. And it's like gripping something and having it yanked out of your hand. It's going to be quite painful. Whereas if you've just, I've got it here, it's safe, but it's loose, then it can slip away without too much damage to, what we're gripping on. So I think that's a really great way of putting it. But if you just sort of give us a little bit more insight into what sort of way has that shaped the way you think about yourself now that you've realised it's okay to let some things go, these big grand plans that I had. How does that shape your thoughts?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things that I've been learning, with some professional help, I didn't come up with it by myself, but one of the things that I've been learning is trying to change the way that I think about things. So I've always been really big on shoulds and oughts. Yes. I should be like this. I ought to do things this way. And then when that doesn't happen, I'm very hard on myself for not meeting those expectations. Yeah. So recently I've been trying to change from oughts to wants. So instead of, for example, I ought to eat more healthy and lose weight and be fit. It's, I want to do those things.
Right.
Because then it's, okay, well, yes, right at this moment I want to eat a burger, but I also want to be healthy. So which one of those things is more important to me? Rather than going, I shouldn't eat this burger, but I really want to, so I'm going to anyway and feel really guilty.
Yeah. So, and then beat myself up for it later.
Yeah, and that's been really huge this year. I mean, in dealing with the things that I cannot control, when you lose the oughts, you lose a lot of that pressure that I could never live up to because I couldn't control it. Yeah. I am only responsible for my part of my marriage failing. So, if acknowledging what I can do better, but also acknowledging that I'm not the only person in the relationship, and that I can't control all that happens in the relationship because there's two of us, not just me. So that's been a huge thing for me, and especially with my kids, with autism, they talk all the time about how important early intervention is.
Yes.
So when I'm in the middle of going through these very difficult times and I'm not getting all the therapy done, and every time I go to a therapy session and go, I haven't done anything this week, and the oughts and the shame and the guilt just pile up higher and higher and higher, and it gets heavier and heavier. So trying to let go of that and looking instead at, okay, it's not that I ought to be a good mother, it's that I want to be. So when I don't get the therapy done, it's okay, I didn't get it done, I can get it done now. So it's letting go of that shoulds has been incredibly important.
That's amazing. I don't know any mother that hasn't experienced some sort of mother guilt, and I think it's really important that yes, there's a lot of stuff that we should do and that we don't do and then feel guilty about, but I always say to mums, but did you feed them, keep them safe, and get them off to bed at a reasonable hour? You did a really good job today, did you encourage them? Did you hug them when they fell over? You did a really good job today. And there's some days there's only so much you can do as a mother, because we're also a person going through stuff, right? You're also going through your own personal experiences. And sometimes the best you can do for the day is very different today than it will be tomorrow. So I think that's a really good way to reframe the way you are looking at the expectations on yourself, is that it's okay. Okay, I didn't get that done. Oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow.
Exactly. And it's reducing the expectation, I think. It's very easy with some things to try and do the lifetime's worth at once, if that makes sense. So I'm a Christian, so say for doing my quiet times in the morning, if I don't do it one day, it's very easy to say, oh, I've stuffed it up forever. I'm not getting it done every day, I'm the worst Christian ever. Rather than reducing it back and going, okay, no, I'm doing it just for today. And if I don't get it done today, you know what, I can do it tomorrow and do tomorrow's tomorrow. You know what I mean? And
I do.
And that's been enormous as well.
I'm a big fan of the imaginary reset button, and I always talk about the reset button in my training and things that I do. And I just go, you've got an imaginary reset button. Every morning you get to wake up and press it, and then we go, it's not a good noise, but that's what it sounds like in my head. Press the reset button and off you go again. It doesn't matter what you did or didn't do yesterday, doesn't matter because it's gone anyway. It just what can I get up and have another go at today? And then if you stuff up today, guess what? You've got another day to wake up and press the reset button. So
exactly.
A really important message.
And it's a really big part of that whole idea of letting go. We're not just letting go of who we think we should be, but also letting go of, can't do anything about the past, so let that go. Can't do anything about the future yet because it's not even here yet, so let that go. You can have dreams and ambitions, but also be really aware of the realistic side of it, which is do today's work today and do each day as it comes to work towards those dreams and ambitions, rather than trying to achieve them all at once, which is not possible.
That's fantastic. That's great advice. And so how do you manage your well-being? So this year you have been part of the global pandemic that we've all been part of, but on top of that, you have gone through a separation, you have moved out of your house, you are now managing your 3 children, 2 of which have special needs. How do you manage Natalie's well-being?
Well, hands down, the biggest thing is getting some help, and the right help. So the main thing for me has been because we moved in with my parents, so they've been really involved in helping me with the kids and helping to give me some space. So even just little things like being able to take a little bit of time to get up in the morning, to do quiet time, or to do exercise, or just to wake up without having a small body flying at your face, you know. Little things. Yeah, and also, also the professional help as well. You know, I've gotten a lot more help this year with my own mental health, also with the boys with their health as well. So I've got a lot of therapists involved now. And I have mostly been focusing on what I call I am statements. So I'm reframing my identity and trying to change the way that I see myself to something that is achievable and healthy. So
fantastic.
And trying to work on that, and to just take even just 15 minutes every morning to just, okay, where am I? What am I doing today? Who am I today? You know, checking out those I am statements, making sure that I'm approaching the day with those things in mind. It makes a huge difference, and having time off when you can makes an enormous difference.
Time out for you. Are you listening to this, ladies? This is very important. This is not a lecture. This is a loving reminder to take that time out for yourself and take time out for your mental well-being. I know next week, I think the 8th of November, depending on when you're watching this, is PNDA Awareness Week for perinatal mental health. So those practices that you've just mentioned there, Natalie, starting the day with some time out for yourself and some space to be really intentional about what might some of my challenges be, who do I want to be today is a great question to ask yourself, and remembering the I am statements, because I know a lot of women focus on what we're not and what somebody else is that we admire in them, and we can often forget what we are in ourselves. And remember, you are no ordinary woman. You have got your unique, amazing, no ordinary woman journey and story, and every single woman has extraordinary gifts and abilities and amazing things to offer the world. So it's important that and it's kind of counterintuitive for a woman, especially a mother, to put themselves first, because you're always putting your kids first, other people first, your work first. And so starting that day with that self-care is an amazing routine and practice to get into. Routine's also very important for mental health as well. So I think that is a really good reminder. So thank you for sharing your morning routine to give us some ideas on what to be doing. So also, can I just ask you, what sort of positive things and positive reframing messages do you tell yourself regularly when you start to think, I feel guilty about, leaving, I feel guilty for my kids because I'm divorced. I feel guilty because we've moved in with my parents, because that's a thing that happens to parents, and it's particularly I don't know about men, but I know that for mothers, what positive things can you tell yourself to reframe that?
So I think the main thing for me is just to really understand that so long as I am trying to do what I think is best for them in each moment, I can't really do anything more than that.
Beautiful.
So I mean, I don't know. Exactly. So even in the little things, like when you say, no, I'm going to risk the tantrum and say no to sugar. The little things like that. You're trying to do what you think is best for them at that time. And no matter what comes out of it, if you're going into each moment with that attitude, you can't do anything more. I can't control how my kids are going to grow up. I can't control how they're going to see their childhood. I can't control you know, what goes on with their dad, for example. What I can control is how I approach each moment. And honestly, you know, like you said before, if you're if you're feeding them, if you're clothing them, if you're giving them love, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every day, you're doing well, child.
Yeah. And honestly, some days if you get to the end of the day and they're all alive, you're doing well.
Yeah. I love that. And like some days, you know, what success looks like. I want to be a successful mother. You know, some days being a successful mother is just having to have the opportunity to have a shower that day. Woo, I'm winning.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the big things, though, is letting go of that idea of success.
Yeah.
Because being a successful mother kind of puts a lot of pressure on both you and the kid. Because, I mean, if your idea of success is that you have a child who does well at school or is really good at sports or is really well behaved, there are enormous pressures to put on a little child or even a teenager or an adult to say, no, you have to behave perfectly all the time to validate me as a mother. You know, so letting go of that success idea and more just going, okay, in each situation am I trying to do what's best for them?
Brilliant.
Not necessarily what's going to make them happy or what's going to make me happy, but what I think is best. And I think that's been really, really important, especially with autistic kids. You know, there are so many things that I have to make them do that they just don't want to do in order to function as people. You know, like my younger son doesn't like me buying new shoes for him. He hates new shoes. So every year we have to wait until the shoes are completely falling apart and then go through a whole process of, you know, full-on tantrums and meltdowns for weeks until he finally accepts the new shoes. But he needs new shoes. So this is what's best for him, even if he doesn't like it. So that's and understanding that even if you don't do what is the best thing for them, if you're trying to, you're on a good wicket, you know. So
it is like we do, like as mothers, put way too much pressure on ourselves, and it's great to have good intentions, but you know, things don't, like we said at the very beginning, sometimes all of our best laid plans slip through our fingers, and it is really, I think, being okay with the fact that we need to be flexible and adaptable and resilient, and life is going to take us sometimes on a different path than the one that we expected, whether we've made, you know, the occasional wrong turn or whether somebody has made it for us. But being able to get back up, women are incredibly resilient in that way, as like if they're able to just keep getting back up. And I think it's important to never get to that point. And sometimes if you need, like you mentioned, one of the most powerful things is asking for help. And sometimes we need a hand to get back up, but that's okay that every now and then we need help. So I think, you know, this has been a great, just in this year, like everything, as a lifetime of things have happened in this year that you have experienced with your kids and reinventing yourself, and you're also studying as well, which is, I'm like, where do you find the time to study and look after two kids and look after yourself and try to reshape your entire world? And you really, you are no ordinary woman. You have done an amazing job this year, and I think if you were going to leave a message for somebody watching that might be going through a divorce or worrying about how that things are impacting their kids or that have special needs children, what would you say to her watching us?
Well, I guess the biggest thing that I've learned this year is giving yourself time, in terms of time to look after yourself, but also in terms of time to grieve or fall over or have a day of, no, I can't do it today, and then getting back up the next day, you know. So, or even if it takes a week, you know. I think it's one of the things that women especially, and mothers especially, tend to do is we like to shove all of our own feelings aside because we just have to deal with. But experiencing and dealing with those things is really important. So that's something that I've I mean, I've sort of been forced to do that over the last couple of months. I haven't had much of a chance to do otherwise. So yeah, absolutely. I think that getting some help, getting that village around you is really important, and giving yourself some space, whatever that looks like. Even just some, 5 minutes to sit and have a coffee, or sit and have a cry, or listen to whatever, just to stop and let all that stuff catch up rather than building up. I think it's really, really important.
What a beautiful, loving piece of advice that is. And you're right, because we're often thinking of other people. It's just taking the time out to grieve if you need to grieve, be happy if you need to happy, go shopping if you need to go shopping, read a book, do whatever it takes to give yourself that love and nurturing and kindness. So I will add to that, your self-talk. I think we need to be our own cheerleader and be our own kind, loving, nurturing self as well, and give ourselves lots of love, and to know that you are okay. Like, whatever season you're in at the moment, you will be okay. My favorite, I always have my favorite sayings, but another one is like, you have survived 100% of everything that you've been through to date, because you're here, and you will survive whatever this season is as well. And so that's been really great advice. Natalie, thank you so much for sharing that piece of your journey for this year, and to share with us and highlight the fact that sometimes life doesn't go as planned, and we are all just doing the best we can. We're all learning, we're all falling on our bums every now and then, and we're all getting back up sometimes. Thank you so much for sharing your version of that, and the fact that you are no ordinary woman. Really appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
You are so welcome. And thank you all for watching. If you've liked this video, give us a like. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments below. If you've got any questions about anything we've talked about today, do leave the comments. I'm sure Natalie would be happy to answer any questions if you've got questions about anything that she's spoken about this morning. So do leave your thoughts and comments below, and we look forward to seeing you next time for No Ordinary Woman. Bye for now.